Umar Nurmagomedov has finally revealed his long-awaited UFC return, and the announcement has fans buzzing with excitement. After months of speculation, uncertainty, and shifting rumors, the talented bantamweight contender confirmed that he will step back into the octagon later this year. While his opponent has yet to be finalized, Umar did confirm that his return bout will take place in Abu Dhabi at UFC 304, a location that has become almost a second home for fighters from his team. This news immediately reignited discussions about his place in the bantamweight division and how he plans to rebound after his last performance. Umar has not fought since January, when he dropped a hard-fought decision to the reigning champion, Merab. Although the defeat was a setback, many fans and analysts believe Umar still possesses the speed, skill, and technical ability to be a serious threat to anyone at 135 pounds. Losing to the champion did little to diminish the hype surrounding him. In fact, it only fueled anticipation about how he would respond, with many eager to see whether he can re-establish himself as one of the division's most dangerous rising contenders. Not long ago, reports suggested Umar was set to face Mario Bautista in October, possibly even headlining the UFC's card in Vancouver. However, that matchup fell through after scheduling changes elevated another fight into the main event slot. This left many fans uncertain about Umar's next move. Now, with his confirmation that he will return in Abu Dhabi, the pieces are finally coming together. Speaking at a recent Eagle FC press conference, Umar explained that the decision to fight in Abu Dhabi was strategic. After consulting with his team and manager, they agreed it was the best option, given that many of his teammates would already be preparing for that card. "Yes, I was given Abu Dhabi in October," Umar said. "We decided it worked better. The entire team will already be there, so the location and timing made more sense." One notable detail is that his bout will not be a 5-round main event. Instead, it is expected to be scheduled for 3 rounds due to the already stacked nature of the UFC 304 card. Umar admitted that he would prefer the challenge of a 5-rounder but accepted the decision, showing both confidence and patience. The big question now is whether he will still face Mario Bautista or another rising contender. Either way, Umar Nurmagomedov's return is already one of the most talked about stories in the bantamweight division, and anticipation continues to build ahead of UFC 304. Moving to another news, Islam has finally addressed the ongoing speculation about his future in the lightweight division, and his comments have only fueled further intrigue within the MMA world. Since vacating his lightweight title to pursue gold at welterweight has made it clear that his primary focus is becoming a 2-division champion. However, the possibility of him returning to 155 pounds for a blockbuster showdown with current lightweight champion Ilia Topuria has never truly gone away. Fans, analysts, and fellow fighters continue to push the narrative, and every time Islam speaks, the speculation only grows stronger. Earlier this year, Makhachev stated that he wanted to challenge for the welterweight belt without holding up the lightweight division. That decision ultimately led him to vacate the lightweight title, opening the door for Ilia to rise to the throne. Now that Topuria sits as champion, conversations about whether Makhachev might be tempted to make the return to lightweight have reignited with full force. At a recent Eagle FC press conference, Makhachev was asked directly about the possibility of moving back down to 15-5. His response demonstrated both openness and caution. Islam explained that the decision would largely depend on how his body responds after fights. If he consistently walks around at 83 or 84 kilograms, a cut to lightweight could still be manageable. However, if he continues to hover at 85 or 86 kilograms, then the cut becomes nearly impossible. Weight management has always been one of the biggest challenges of his career, and he openly admitted that cutting down to 5'5" has never been easy. During the same event, a passionate fan asked Makhachev whether he would return specifically to make Ilia pay for certain comments he had made. Smiling, Islam offered a cryptic but telling reply, "As you wish." While he did not make any promises, he acknowledged that a matchup with Ilia is a fight that carries serious intrigue. He even floated the idea of a potential catchweight bout, which could allow both fighters to meet without the grueling demands of a full lightweight cut. For now, Makhachev remains focused on his welterweight journey. His next challenge is expected to be against Jack Della Maddalena for the 170-pound title, though the fight has not yet been finalized. Beyond that, talk of a possible clash with Khamzat has already begun circulating. When pressed on the subject, Islam carefully avoided creating conflict, stressing that he wants no unnecessary disputes with or his people. Ultimately, Makhachev finds himself at a fascinating crossroads. On one hand, fans dream of seeing him return to lightweight for a historic clash with Ilia Topuria. On the other, his ambitions at welterweight and the toll of cutting weight may steer him in a different direction, whether at 155, 170, or even a catchweight. Islam Makhachev's next move will have massive implications for the future of MMA. Let's dive into another news. One of the biggest talking points in the MMA world right now is the rising tension between Islam Makhachev and Khamzat Chimaev. The debate over whether these two dominant fighters could eventually meet inside the octagon has quickly become one of the most discussed topics in the sport. That speculation only intensified after Makhachev recently commented that he would be ready to face Chimaev in the future. With just a few words, Islam set off a wave of conversations among fans and analysts about weight classes, matchups, and what the UFC would realistically allow. Josh Thompson, former fighter and longtime teammate of Khabib Nurmagomedov, weighed in on the matter, providing valuable insight into how Team Khabib views the situation. Thompson pointed out that Khabib's team likely doesn't want to reignite tensions with Chimaev, especially after the infamous altercation a few years ago involving Khabib's cousin, Abubakar Nurmagomedov. Fans still remember that heated moment when punches were thrown during a UFC event. Although the incident was eventually settled, Thompson explained that there is no real benefit to bringing that drama back into the spotlight. Beyond the personal history, Thompson also raised a crucial logistical point. Even if Islam and Chimaev wanted the fight, the UFC would likely stand in the way. Makhachev is now firmly established as a lightweight champion, and the organization is unlikely to let him immediately jump between weight classes, particularly given the difficulty both men have faced with weight management in the past. Thompson emphasized that the UFC will not risk destabilizing a division by having its champion repeatedly struggle to cut weight for high-profile matchups. Instead, Thompson offered a bold alternative that surprised many fans. Rather than pushing Makhachev to move up, he suggested that Chimaev should go higher to light heavyweight or even heavyweight. According to Thompson, Chimaev's style could wreak havoc in the upper divisions. His grappling, relentless pressure, and raw strength would give him a massive advantage against many fighters in those weight classes, where wrestling ability is often less developed. Thompson even went so far as to predict that with proper preparation, Chimaev could win a title at 205 pounds and potentially become a threat in the heavyweight division as well. The combination of history, rivalry, and possibility makes the Islam vs. Chimaev storyline one of the most intriguing narratives in MMA today. There is real tension behind the scenes, and fans know the bad blood hasn't fully disappeared. Still, as Thompson argued, Chimaev's smarter long-term move may be to chase greatness at higher weight classes rather than reigniting old conflicts. Whether or not the UFC ever books Makhachev versus Chimaev, the conversation alone is keeping the MMA community glued to what happens next. Moving on to another news. Former lightweight champion Charles Oliveira has recently sparked conversation in the MMA world by giving his opinion on who should be the next man to challenge reigning champion Ilia Topuria. When asked who deserves the opportunity, Oliveira didn't hesitate. He pointed directly to top-ranked contender Arman Tsarukyan. According to Oliveira, the path is clear. Tsarukyan is ranked #1, and that alone makes him the rightful challenger. Oliveira explained that Arman has been preparing for this moment for a long time. In fact, he was already lined up for a title opportunity before injury forced him to withdraw. Despite setbacks, Arman has continued to train relentlessly, staying sharp and ready. For Oliveira, the choice is simple. The #1 contender should not have to wait any longer. He believes Arman's time has come. Many fans and analysts agree with this perspective. Tsarukyan has built his reputation as one of the most dangerous fighters in the lightweight division. His relentless wrestling, suffocating pressure, and tireless work ethic have made him a nightmare matchup for anyone at 155 pounds. Every performance has further cemented his place as a legitimate threat to the title, and Oliveira's endorsement has only strengthened the case for him. However, the UFC has its own vision for the division. President Dana White has been firm in stating that Arman will not receive a title shot until he secures another victory. Despite being ranked #1, Tsarukyan finds himself in a frustrating position, forced to prove himself once again. This decision has fueled heated debates across the MMA community. Some argue that rankings should matter, and if a fighter sits at the top, he should be next in line for gold. Others counter that the UFC's focus has always been on the biggest, most marketable fights regardless of rankings. Adding another complication is Ilia Topuria himself. The champion has been very clear that he does not want to face Tsarukyan as his next opponent. Instead, Ilia appears more interested in chasing high-profile names with greater star power, dismissing the traditional logic of rankings. This stance has only heightened the tension within the division, creating a clash between merit and marketability. Meanwhile, Rafael Fiziev has also entered the conversation. Known for his striking prowess and fan-friendly style, Fiziev is seen as another potential contender. While Oliveira didn't specifically endorse Fiziev, the UFC may still consider him as an option. For now, the lightweight division remains in flux. With Oliveira's public support, Tsarukyan's claim to a title shot is stronger than ever. Yet whether the UFC chooses to reward merit or chase money fights remains to be seen. Moving on, another news. Shavkat Rakhmanov's return to the octagon remains a hot topic in the welterweight division, but his manager has officially put an end to the latest wave of speculation. Over the past few weeks, rumors began to swirl that the undefeated Kazakh fighter was being lined up to face Sean Brady this November. The chatter quickly gained momentum across social media, especially after a report from Sportyline hinted that negotiations were underway for a potential matchup at the UFC's November 22 card in Qatar. For fans, the prospect of two of the division's most dangerous contenders colliding was an exciting one. Brady has been riding high in the rankings, while Rakhmanov has established himself as a rising force with an unblemished record. The idea of the two squaring off had the MMA community buzzing. However, before the rumor could grow any further, Rakhmanov's manager, Daniel Rubinstein, firmly shut it down. "When will you people learn?" Rubinstein said in a blunt response. "When you don't check both sides, you just end up spreading fake news. This fight is not happening, and it certainly won't happen in November." His statement left little room for doubt, confirming that fans should not expect a showdown between Rakhmanov and Brady anytime soon. The announcement also reignited questions about what the future holds for both men. Rakhmanov has not fought since December, when he picked up a dominant decision victory over Ian Gary. Many believed he was on the verge of a high-stakes clash with former champion Belal Muhammad earlier this year, but those plans were derailed when Rakhmanov suffered an injury that forced him to the sidelines. Now fully focused on his recovery, speculation about his next opponent has been non-stop, with some suggesting that he may even be positioning himself for a direct path to a title shot. On the other side, Sean Brady finds himself in a frustrating situation. Ranked number 2 in the division, Brady last competed in March, where he earned a career-defining victory over Leon Edwards. The win cemented his status as a legitimate contender, but finding willing opponents has been a challenge. According to Brady, the UFC offered him a fight with Ian Gary for an upcoming event in Vancouver, but Gary reportedly declined. That leaves both Brady and Rakhmanov in uncertain territory. Will the UFC revisit Brady versus both Gary, or will they look to reintroduce Rakhmanov once he's fully healed? One thing is clear, the welterweight division is stacked with talent, and fans are eager to see how the next chapter unfolds. Former UFC lightweight champion Charles "Do Bronx" Oliveira has finally addressed the swirling speculation about his fighting future, and he's made his stance crystal clear. In recent weeks, rumors began circulating that Oliveira might use his upcoming fight in Rio de Janeiro as the perfect stage to announce his retirement. The Brazilian star, however, has strongly denied those claims, insisting that stepping away from the sport is not even on his mind. Oliveira is set to return to action on October 11th when he faces fellow contender Rafael Fiziev in a pivotal lightweight clash. The matchup comes just months after Oliveira suffered a tough loss to rising star Ilia Topuria in June, fueling talk that his career could be winding down. With the Brazilian turning 36 shortly after the bout, many fans and analysts began to wonder if his October fight would serve as his farewell. But when asked directly about the possibility during a recent interview with Ag Fight, Oliveira scoffed at the idea. "No, forget it," Oliveira said firmly. "People are trying to retire me before I want to retire. I haven't even thought about retirement. I have no desire to retire. I don't want to retire. There's a lot going on. I'm very happy with what I'm doing. I'm only 35 and there's a lot happening, so stop talking to me about retirement because I don't want to retire now." Oliveira went on to explain that he still feels the same passion and excitement for training that carried him to the lightweight title in 2021. "I'll fight until I feel good, until I feel excited about dedicating myself, training, and being happy," he said. That's the most important thing. It's a defiant statement from a man who has faced countless highs and lows throughout his career. Oliveira holds the UFC record for most submission victories and has beaten some of the best fighters in the division. Yet questions about his durability and long-term prospects continue to follow him, especially after setbacks against elite competition. Whether a win against Fiziev will silence those doubts or another tough loss will reignite talk of retirement remains to be seen. But for now, one thing is certain: Charles Oliveira isn't going anywhere.